Boys don't become men simply by getting older. They must be shown the way. They must be initiated into manhood by other men. They need brothers. The world may be collapsing, but God is raising up good men to raise good men. It's one of the great God movements of our time, and you can be part of it. On the Dragon Slayers podcast, we interview ordinary men with extraordinary tales of conquering their fears and becoming fearless, loving men of God. Through their stories, you will hear rich wisdom, practical advice, and the value of brotherhood so you can stand out as a man among men. Warning, we will not mince words. We believe soft men and soft advice slay no dragons. So prepare yourself like a man. This is the Dragon Slayers podcast.
Aloha with Alan Cardines Jr. from all the way from the beautiful state of Hawaii, the island of Oahu. Welcome, Alan. Thanks for coming, man.
Hey, Danny. Great to be here with you guys. Such an honor and a privilege to be part of this amazing movement.
Yeah.
Slayers.
Dude, fantastic. So good to have you.
I like how he said that. Dragon Slayers.
He's all that, man. This is probably the most inspirational guy I hang around with. I tell you, you get done talking to Alan and you just want to charge the hill. It's so good. Alan, you obviously you're a native of Hawaii. You've grown up there. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about your neighborhood, a little bit about the region of Oahu, and how in the world does a guy grow up in that neighborhood and ending up wanting to be a spiritual leader, a father, a pastor in the same place?
Well, I grew up on the main island of Oahu, on the west side of the island, where there's high concentration of Native Hawaiians that live there, but also at the same time, a lot of the Native Hawaiians are locked up in prison, incarcerated, homeless, on drugs, a high concentration of Native Hawaiians in a foster care system. In fact, on our island, we have all four branches of the military, and they advise their families don't go to that side of the island. And when people ask them why, they say you might have a family of 5 and end up with a family of 2 after that. You don't want to go to that side of the island. So that's my community. I grew up there, Native Hawaiians, and I grew up as a young boy believing the lie and a just sheer hatred for white people at that time. White people and people.
Oh, good. You worked through that. Okay,
I could never tell.
And that's because I believe that as a Hawaiian, it was those people, the white people in the military, stole our land. So there's deep hurt, there's deep pain within our islands, not just my community, but Native Hawaiians, Hawaiian lands across the islands, and that was my past before, and now I got ambushed by God. Got ambushed, and now I believe that I am powerful, not powerless. I have a purpose from God to be able to right the wrong, and to be an ambassador of Aloha, to be a royal priesthood, a holy nation. In Hawaiian, we say kanaka, a man, a warrior, nakoa, to stand up and to right the wrong for such a time as this. And then he keep hearing about this guy, Danny Silk. So who in the world is this guy? Then you show up, speak at a conference. That's my bro. That's my family. That's my tribe. And the rest is history, man. So brief background of my journey from being powerless to being powerful.
So you end up as a father to a fatherless community. I mean, with that many men in prison, that many men on drugs, this is a fatherless experience for most children in that community. And how in the world do you end up deciding to be such a deeply devoted father?
I'm on this I'm on a journey of discovering who I am as a person, and I recognize that a lot of the problems, trafficking, sexual exploitation, homelessness, homicides are up 80% on my side of the island. 80%.
Dude.
Um, uh, so much problems. A lot of the guys behind the trigger are teenage boys. So with all that going on, that's a fruit and a symptom. I realized that the root cause of the problem is fatherlessness, and I am the guy today because other people saw something in me I never saw in myself. I never realized that. You're one of the guys, Danny. You know, two things that you asked me to do: join the Love and Logic thing and join the tribe. You know, so I'm the father I am today because I have role models. I have you guys to thank for my journey. I'm still recovering. In fact, the other day they're trying to pass this marijuana with all the problems. They're trying to legalize marijuana here, and I had to pray, God, help me to bless them, not blast them. Father, help me to be a peacemaker, not troublemaker. Lord, help me to be a minister and not a sinister. Oh Lord, help me to at this committee hearing. Help me to speak prophetically, not pathetically. So I'm recovering. I'm not there yet. I'm on a journey. But that's why I love being part of this movement, Dragon Slayers. One, because I know every time we meet, I'm accountable. And I got to get my act together so I can show up, be vulnerable, and be accountable for my attitude and my actions. So I'm the guy I am today,
Awesome.
like you guys.
That's awesome.
If you're listening, this is how Alan talks every time. All the time.
This is
It's the most fun.
Why just stop, Alan? Keep going, man.
Oh, he's not done. He's got more. There's more in there, man.
So
it just
good.
rolls.
So
Dude,
good.
I always can tell a great leader by how much responsibility they want.
Yes.
And you have gone over and above accepting responsibility to solve problems, accepting responsibility to Kylo, your fellow man, your fellow leaders. You know, you have taken Kylo and you have really run with it. Talk to me just a little bit about bringing the pastors together in such a profound way. I mean, these guys are literally repenting to one another. What in the world are you doing?
Well, I was praying that God will find somebody to bring the pastors and leaders together. I guess God ran out of people on the field and on a bench, and the last guy was there wasn't me. So, well,
He ran out.
somebody had to do it. But it's just pure obedience to the call of God and waking up and looking in the mirror. And if not you, then who? And if not now, then when? Not here, then where? And seizing the opportunity to become a community organizer, if you will. And I feel like if the church ain't going to get it right, how in the world is government going to get it? The church don't get it right. How in the world is the community going to get right? And I feel like the church has a calling and a mandate to be the spiritual moral compass. And if we can't even love each other, how in the world is the community going to love each other, you know? And again, I love the phrase that you use often, John 13:35, but this the world will know, right? That we're his disciples if we love one another. So I think, it starts within the body of Christ and putting a call out, for us to be that compass, to be the example. And it's brutal. It's brutal to get a whole bunch of leaders together, alpha leaders together, and agree on something. But yeah, it's worth it. It's such a noble calling for that part. And then how do we bring influencers together in the community and in government? And I realized I can't do it. I have to die to self I no longer live so that Christ who lives in me. And people say, Alan, it's hard to do what you do. I said, it's not hard, it's impossible. That's why we need Jesus. So,
It's harder than that. It's harder
yeah.
than that.
Yeah. So it's a noble calling, but that's why again I love what you guys stand for. I love what you guys do. And we need to be an example to society out there and to raise up an army of fathers and mothers, especially fathers, to heal a community of orphans,
Yeah.
to counter the enemy's attack on men and families. That's why I just so resonate with what God is doing here in this.
Yeah.
Something you said earlier, and right there, raising up an army of fathers, and you clearly being a father in your community, you started out by saying Native Hawaiian grew up hating the white man for doing all this thing. So, and you said your journey's from powerlessness to being a powerful person. How did that transition happen for you? I know you gave some credit to Danny and meeting that, which is great, but like there's a lot of work on your end. So I just, how do you shift from a mind frame of, you got raised up in a certain way of believing. Did you just hear truth and knew it was true and then decided to chase after it and say, oh, I can do something about it? Because really the question in there that I'm wondering about is, if I'm stuck in a victim mentality, how do I ever break free from it?
Totally.
Yeah. For those of you out there listening that you want the answer to this question, there's a great resource called Life Academy. and in there, it has people helping people. So what I learned from people helping people is you can't help someone with a problem they don't see, that they're not going to take ownership of, and they're not going to be motivated. So for me, I had to realize I had a problem.
Yeah.
And that problem was control and punishment. I grew up in a family with parents that they try to control you. If they can't control you, to punish you, and I was addicted to that. And I realized that was my problem. The problem was me. And I had to make that shift from realizing that the only person I can control on a good day is myself. And I wasn't doing a good job. I wasn't doing a good job of controlling me. I tried controlling everybody else. So I had to overcome the lie that I could control other people and I had the right to punish them. And I realized that I had a problem with anger, problem with control. I had a problem with punishment, and I was addicted to that. And I needed to break the addiction and realize I need help. And so, and stop blaming the white people, stop blaming the military, and take extreme responsibility. The only person that's responsible for my attitude, my actions, and my future is me and me alone, nobody else. So, and get the help and get help. And that's why, again, you guys, Life Academy, saved my marriage, saved me from me, and helped me to be the father that I'm called to be.
Yeah.
I have a problem, and I got you guys as a solution. So, yeah, does that answer your question, Christian?
Yeah, it's beautiful, brother. It's beautiful.
There's not watching right now, just listening. Alan's in tears at the moment, which the thing I was thinking about with you, Alan, is I'm going to sound like you for a second, but if you talk to you long enough, you start hearing your testimony because there was a test that you had to get through. And you're wearing a hat today that says Fight for Family. It's actually a reference to my wife's book, Imperfect Parenting. A little plug for a minute there.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I bring it up is I think the rest of the story, you just answered Christian's question about where did this come from, what happened. I think you got from powerless to powerful, and then something else happened. Like the testimony that came through the test has produced in you this fire to actually want to give it away. And I think that's the thing Danny's referencing is the responsibility you've said yes to for not just your family, your home, but your community too. Like, can you point to where that came from? Can you point to like, this is where that fire started? This is why I said yes?
Yeah, I was just reminded of that just last week, actually, with the marijuana bills that they're trying to legalize here. And it goes back to, I believe, 2002, when my wife called me and said that Kimo Kill's dead. Kimo Kill is 22 years old, native Hawaiian from the island of Maui, nice Hawaiian community. And he had some problems because of drugs. He got into trouble with the law. They brought him home. And in front of his little brother, he put a rifle in his mouth and he pulled the trigger. And so she said, Kimo Kill's dead. And I says, no, he can't. I mean, out of the 9 kids, he's the superstar. He's a shining star. And it wasn't until a week later we arrived into the church, I could hear crying. Then it hit me that he was dead. And so we had the service and we went outside and we had the burial. And I stood there and my cousins were saying, oh, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. But they did nothing to help him out. At that point in time, weeks and months leading up to that, the Lord was calling me into ministry. The Lord was calling to ministry. And I says, no, I'm too busy on making the big bucks and gonna do my own thing. And right there at the graveside, I said, Lord, if this is why you want me to get in ministry to save and change lives, so be it. I'm your guy. And I'm reminded today with all the drugs and all the stuff that's happening up there that I'm the right guy for the right time, for the right reason, in the right place. So that's the why, and that's the passion and purpose that burns in me in a powerful, not powerless way.
Dude, your family, really important to you. Tell us a little bit about your lovely wife and your kids.
Well, that's my beautiful wife, Mari. Thank God that she decided to marry me. I feel like I was damaged goods. I had 3 kids at the time. A single parent. One was adopted because I had her in high school and so forth. But for the life of me, and thank God, she said yes to marrying me. With all my hurts, habits, and hang-ups, she said yes. And that's my wife, Mari, and together we have 4 beautiful kids, and loving the Lord. And we have 9 grandchildren as well. And because of you guys, I thank God that I got to rewrite my family history. I got to rewrite my family legacy, in such a way that I'm no longer passing down the hurts, habits, and hangups to my marriage, my children, my grandchildren. But God is using my family to become a community and to help the community to become a family. And so I understand the importance of family and legacy, thanks to you guys. And you guys helping me. What's your goal in your relationship? What's your goal in communication? What's your goal in confrontation? What's your goal in healthy boundaries? I'm said, are you speaking in tongues? What are you? So you guys really helped me to ask tough stuff, so I can man up and take responsibility for my marriage, my family, my community, my state. And God says to disciple nations. And I'm just shooting for the 50th state. That's it, man. Just my one state. So that's enough for now.
Yeah. We'll be happy with you taking care of that one state. That's a beautiful place, man. Yeah. And it's in peril, just like the rest of them. Well, almost all of them.
Hey, Dragon Slayers, you're going to want to pick up Danny Silk's new book, The Way of the Dragon Slayer, 7 Reasons Men Need Brothers. If you're listening to this podcast and you're going, man, I need some more of this in my life. I need to know what those 7 dragons are. I need to know how to slay them. And I need a template, a playbook to gather men around me, to get my own 12 so that I can experience what I'm hearing about on this podcast. Then you got to get the book. Here's another reason you need to get this book. Every single person who pre-orders the book right now is going to get an exclusive Zoom interview with Danny and John Eldridge. I mean, talk about a couple of mighty men of God. They're going to impart some wisdom on you and some practical advice that's going to change your life. Everyone who pre-orders the book gets that. But guess what? 250 people who pre-ordered the book are going to win exclusive Dragon Slayers merch. We're talking about single release merchandise. You're going to get a hat that will never reproduce again. You'll be one of the OG original gatherer, a legacy founder member of Dragon Slayers. And here's why you definitely want to pre-order the book. Only when you pre-order the book at dragonslayers.co, that's dragonslayers.co, one lucky person is going to win an epic trip with Danny and his group of Dragon Slayers. We're going to take you to Wyoming, and you're going to become truly alive in the presence of amazing men of God, and it's going to knock your socks off. All you need to do to get involved, to punch your ticket for all of that, is go to dragonslayers.co, that's dragonslayers.co, and pre-order Danny's new book, The Way of the Dragon Slayer, 7 Reasons Men Need Brothers. Do it now.
In the Dragon Slayer book, you write, you told the story about China, the transgender lady that came to your congregation, and I don't want you to necessarily unpack that whole story just as much as it's so beautiful, and I want to encourage everybody to get the book and read that. But I want you to tell us a story. I mean, you have this grace and this security that comes from mature love. Mature love casts out fear, and the people that cross paths with you are always going to be challenged by the fact that you are leaning way over your skis. You're hanging 10 out there. You are like, follow me as I follow Christ. And it's all about the love. It's all about the connection. And you're talking about healing entire communities. And you and your team pulled together a pretty wild Christmas, including the local police officers. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's known today as Operation Blue Light Christmas. That idea came up in May 2020 when we had a global pandemic. There was anarchy riots across the nation. They were attacking police stations, burning them down. And that was fine with the other 49. It's fine. As long as it doesn't touch us in Hawaii, that's fine. Do what you guys do on the other 49. As long as it does, don't
not my problem.
Don't mess. That's not my problem. Don't mess with the 50th state. Don't mess. But the problem is they sent like 200 professional agitators from the mainland to come to Hawaii, and of all places, they want to send them to Nanakuli. I'm like, how stupid is the devil? And so to counter the hatred towards police and all of that, we felt like we go in opposite spirit. And the Lord says, call the police, borrow the police cars, so you can have them deliver presents to the kids in the community. So we did that. And the whole purpose of that was to bring police and community together.
Yeah.
A positive circumstance so we can be famous for Aloha. And it started off with small, with just 100 kids. And this past December, the police donated over 2,000 gifts to the children in our community. And it's one of the largest Christmas events in my community, on my side of the island. So it's called Operation Blue Light Christmas. It is to bring hope, help, and healing to the people, that we can bury the hatchet, just stop punishing each other, and come together and learn how to love. So that's the heart behind that. And it's to bring people together, government, politicians. And I remember a friend of mine says, Alan, church would be good if they didn't have people.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, that's funny.
Yeah. They keep messing it up. We just get it all fixed, and they keep messing it up. Yeah.
Yeah. So Operation Blue Light Christmas is a way to value people, all people, regardless of their denomination, political affiliation, race, gender, and so forth. That's the heart of the spirit. of Operation Blue Light Christmas was to just be famous for Aloha.
Yeah.
As I hear you talk about this, and this feels like one of 100 things I've heard you do, you embody this thing that we believe that men do.
Yeah.
Men do. They do things. I refer to you in my brain when I see you as Action Alan.
Yeah.
Alan is a man of
He's an
action.
action figure.
He's a hero. He's Hawaii's finest hero. But in a world where I feel like I hear about more men talking about what's wrong and what they might do or how they would do it better, and then seeing an absence of people just doing stuff, how is it that you're able to just do? Like, what's your process? Like when the Lord gives you a word about, hey, move in a counter spirit, go get the police officers. Like, is this something that you get, like you have a heavenly download? Or are you more anointed than other people? Or how does this work where you can just go and do? Because whatever you're carrying needs to happen
everywhere. Another 49.
Every state needs an Action Alan.
So my question is, how do you do that thing that you do, that embodiment of men do? What is it?
I think it's really trusting the Lord with all your heart and not lean on your own understanding. Because I don't understand a lot of stuff we do. I don't know how we're gonna pay for it. I don't know how we can afford it. I don't know how we can pull it off. We don't have the money, the members, or the means. But I got a word from God. And it's holding on to that for dear life, and knowing if it's God's will, it's God's bill. He's gonna take care of all of this stuff, and knowing that miracles happen at the pace of your obedience.
Oh, come on!
Miracles happen at the pace of your obedience, and I was a fool in the world, but now I'm a fool for Christ. And not once did he let me down. And because of that, people see the favor of God and they see miracles, and people are attracted to that. It's almost like Isaiah 60, arise and shine. Darkness will cover the earth. Darkness will cover the people, but the glory of the Lord is upon us as we trust him with all our heart, lean not on our own understanding. Now we got former gang bangers, gang leaders coming to us that want, are asking to be mentored. And the only gang I was a part of was the Mickey Mouse Club. MIC, see you later. K-I. Why? Because we love you. But now God's bringing all these people because of obedience and trusting the Lord with all my heart. So that's it.
I love
Danny wants you to sing that again.
I've never heard that song sang that way before. It's quite a jingle.
Miracles happen.
Yeah, miracles
I'm
happen.
gonna say miracles happen at the pace of obedience. That's such a great word, Alan.
Say more about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because when you say it, that's the first time I ever heard someone say that, and I go, "That's true." But why is that true? Say more about that.
How do you know?
I think that's what men do. That's just what men do. Men are wild at heart. Men are there's three types of people in the world. There's undertakers, caretakers, and risk takers. Undertakers, if I'm going down, I'm going to pull you down with me. Then there's the caretakers that all they're going to do is take care of themselves. As men, as dragon slayers, we're mandated by God to be risk takers, and that's what just men do.
Yeah.
And as we go crazy and go for it, it attracts other men. It attracts other leaders and so forth. So that's what God is doing. And I'm just holding on for dear life because I have no idea. I don't understand what's going on. I didn't get my PhD. I didn't graduate from college, but yet I got some of the smartest people in our government and our state calling, want to partner with us. So
Wow.
for all the men out there, trust the Lord with all your heart. And you know what? Give up the right to understand. God doesn't own your understanding of why your marriage is falling apart, why you're finding. God doesn't owe us an understanding. All we got to do is trust him with all our heart and just go.
Risk takers.
That's what men do.
So good.
That's what men do.
Wow.
Awesome. Alan, you've been gaining momentum with the with your results, with the compassion, the leadership. I mean, you're operating in the governor's circle in Hawaii. You know, you are you're rubbing elbows with the big decision makers in your state, and yet they classically are carrying an antichrist agenda paradigm. You know, they just as opposed to you as they could possibly. If they tried, they may not be able to find a way to be more opposite of your values, of the direction you're going, of the way you like to see things work out, and yet you hang in there. You hang in there year after year. What is the hope? What is the fuel that keeps you hanging in there?
I think it's obedience. I mean, do I have an option? Do we have an option as men? Do we wave the white towel and surrender and give up? I mean, that's not even an option. Failure is not an option. Giving up is not an option. And love never fails. Love never gives up. Love never loses hope. Love never loses faith. Love quitting is not an option. And we're at the place now, Danny, that years ago, government officials were extremely hostile to what we believed in. And I think now, because of being relentless, not giving up, I think they finally realized, man, if you can't beat them, join them.
What? Tell me more. What's happening?
Well, you got the mayor of Honolulu wants to partner with a number of projects to deal with the problems. I got the prosecutor of the county of Honolulu calling. I had the honor and the privilege just last week to stand with 17 other amazing leaders, 4 police chiefs, 2 people from the medical community, former governor of the state of Hawaii, Linda Lingo, that for 14 years she's been out of office. Not once she came out on a position. But last week, for the first time, she came out, marijuana is bad. So, you know, I get to stand alongside with these remarkable people, but them knowing the value that we have. And I don't represent myself. I represent the Father in heaven and the family that we're part of, this movement. As a church. So I get to represent that. And what an honor and a privilege. I got the governor calling, wants to have a meeting with us and pastors because what he's doing not's working. So, and I think that's the thing. Government tries to do their thing, and when it doesn't work, call 911, call Alan, call the church, and so forth. Because things seem to work when they show up. So I think it's just that being consistent, being coachable, being available, and knowing that giving up, as men of God, giving up was, is, and will never be an option. That we will fight the good fight from our identity for generations yet to be born. We have to model.
Yeah, and the good fight is that somehow in all that resistance and all that opposition, you protected your relationship with these people so that they could run their course, and then you're still standing there. It's just like Jesus. It's just like, you know, I was so far from the Lord, and when I turned around, bam, he was right there. How in the world? I thought I would have to go back 100 miles, and when I turned around, he was right there. Love is the fuel, isn't it? Love is the fuel.
Building, protecting heart-to-heart connections. That's it, man. You can't solve any problem if the heart-to-heart connection is there. And especially, it's easy to love people like us. Because I get to see a little bit of me and you, it's easy to do that. But can we love the people that we don't see none of us in there, right? and can we love the unlovable? Can we love the people that we didn't vote for? Ooh, did I just talk about elections? Yeah. I mean, it's easy to love the people that you voted for, but the people that we're rolling with, we get to minister to, I didn't vote him in office. I probably never will. In fact, it's an election year. I'm not going to vote for him. But you know what? I'm going to love him. And you know what? When problem comes our way, consider it a joy. I read that somewhere.
Oh, I think that's in a book.
So that the joy of the Lord would be our strength. That's the key, man. Once you lose that joy, your marriage is done, your family's done, your ministry's done, and so forth. And that joy has a name, and his name is Jesus.
I think when you're talking through that, like I just had an example of this. My son, my oldest son, he's 10 and he's on the school news team, and he got to go to a really cool event, and he got to be around a political leader that maybe on a bad day he's heard his dad not speak fondly of. And I see this picture, and it's like he almost doesn't know how to act around him. And you know, and I was like, oh man, I have an opportunity for a great conversation with my son about how do we treat people that we disagree with. And that's what you're talking about. And what comes out of you every time you answer a question, where this energy comes from, where this commitment, where this fervor, it comes from love, but ultimately it comes from like a deep devotion of like, man, you love Jesus. You love Jesus. And it sounds so trivial to talk about sometimes, because if you're listening, maybe you love Jesus too, and you're a Christian, you've been a Christian your whole life. But if I want to have a relationship where I love Jesus the way Alan does, where he's every other word that comes out of my mouth, and he's the source that I point to, as I'm a young man trying to figure out how do I go deeper in intimacy with Jesus, I'm curious, Alan, like, what's your rhythm with spending time with your father? Like, how did you get to a place where he's so saturated in you that when you get pressed, even the slightest, it's what comes out of you?
You know, for me, it's always going after the presence. It's always going after the presence of God, man. It's you know, it's apart from him, I can do nothing. And my greatest fear is that I will go back to my old life and do it my way and think that God is like Burger King. I can have it my way. I can't, you know. So I'm always after the presence. I want to be a good host and a good steward, and that when I go into meetings, it's a sad meeting or committee hearing when I go in and all they saw is me. You know, I Jesus came to show the Father, and that's what I long for. Is having a father's heart, and that's why again, I just love what we stand for. I know that that's what we're after, but for me, it's just longing for that presence, man.
How do you? I'm a super practical type of thinker, and I always want like, how do I do this? You know, so like,
how'd you do that?
How'd you do that? So going back to the answer was seeking his presence. So practically, if I'm a young man going, okay, that sounds right, that sounds attractive, I want to practice his presence. How might a man start practicing the presence of God?
Oh, it's like Jesus jiu-jitsu, man. It's like martial arts, man. You just gotta pick up that Bible and pray. Get your reps, man. Get your reps, man. You gotta want it, man. You gotta want that relationship. Again, it's a relationship. Dive into the word of God, dive into prayer, get into community. That's the biggest thing as man. And one other thing that I realize is so easy for men to be like Elijah, go into a cave and isolation, and demonic delusion starts taking over. So part of it is humbling yourself, get into a community with other men and dive into the word of God, dive into the spirit of God, be filled with the word of God, the spirit of God, so you can be a man of God. Get out of that cave, man. Because if not, you're going to be like Elijah and go into spiritual depression and so forth. So in a practical sense, it's Jesus jiu-jitsu, man. Join the men's club, get involved with dragon slayers, pick up the weapon, the sword, and prayer, and go for it. Is that practical enough?
That's the best. That's the best answer ever. Jesus jiu-jitsu.
Get in the dojo.
There you have it.
Yeah.
Wax on, wax off.
Alan, I was just on the heels of what you're describing for Christian. I'm just thinking about if the young men, and really just men in general, that are listening to this, going, okay, this is inspiring. I like Alan. He's funny. He's powerful. He's all the things that we love about you. what would you tell them if they're like, okay, this is great, but how do I actually begin to engage my responsibility in my community? And maybe for some of them, it's just starting in their home. But what would you tell someone that's listening to this today, and they would say, okay, where do I begin? How do I go from either being powerless or not taking responsibility to changing the script and shifting that? What would you be telling that person in front of you?
In a practical sense, it's being transformed by the renewing of your mind. I mean, transformation starts here. You can't change the world, the state, the community if this is not changed. So number one, we have to become the change that we want to see out there. So it starts between 16 critical inches in the entire universe, the distance between our head and our heart right here. This needs to change. The second thing is in with our family. With our family, and I think that's where we're losing it. People want to change the state, the nation, the world, and families are falling apart. So as men, it starts here. We be the change, and then in our families. And then from there, God has given us a sphere of influence. Maybe there's guys out there like, man, I can't go for a city. Well, go for your school, go for your workplace, go for something, man. Put in a stake in the ground, serve the devil's eviction notice, and adopt that place that this is my hood. I'm going to put the neighbor back in the hood, my street. Be faithful with the small stuff. And people look at what I'm doing today and they think that it's just like that. I go to one Dragon Slayer meeting, I buy the book, I get the shirt, bang, it doesn't work that way. You have to be faithful with the small stuff. Start with you, start with your family, start with your sphere of influence. The other thing that I learned over the years is I got people trying to do what we're doing. They haven't gotten the success and they're asking me, of all people, they still allow you in government? They still allow you in the schools when you stood up against them? I said, yeah, how in the world you still have access to government and they don't even let me go on a school campus? I said, I don't know. Why don't you ask God? I'm not that smart. And I asked the Lord, it says, Lord, why is it that all these guys still don't have the favor and access to influence and influencers? And I do. And the Lord said this, I would never give people favor and influence and jurisdiction over a people and a place they don't love.
Yep.
So one, we have to learn how to love ourselves.
So good, Alan.
But two, love our families. Love wherever God had put you, your city, your school, wherever it is. And then from there, that will be a base to larger things. But we have to stay faithful. And it takes time. I think one of the biggest mistakes now, people want instant gratification, instant success. The only thing is instant is salvation, or even like sign in. But even sign in, you got to wait 3 minutes. So that's not instant. Take that off. But transformation is a process.
For sure.
And we reap what we sow. That's another thing. People want to reap, but they don't want to sow because they don't want to go. So it's just that.
Yeah. And the thing about being effective with those you love, it really is practice with your family. It's practice. It's practice with the Lord. I mean, that's the first place. That love's got to be downloaded. It's got to be a resource that you carry, and then it's got to not get screwed up in your own self-concept and the way you see yourself, so that when you give it out, it actually does reflect the Father. It's a true representation of His love, and it's got to work on your family, because who do you love more, or who should you love more than the people who gave you life and supported it, or had the job of supporting it, whose likeness you carry, whose name you carry? If you do a lousy job with that, you are only going to try to use your power and your authority to control and manipulate and punish people who disagree, just like you do with your family. If that's what you do with your family, that's what you'll export into your community. So it is so important. What you're saying, Alan, is so right on, that it is your family is like your scorecard. Like how well you're doing with loving people is, if you can convince your family who knows you that you love them, cha-ching.
Yeah.
you know what? This is authentic. Now go and export it to those around. And I love that. That's just a great model, and it's true.
Yep,
it's true.
And it feels a little bit. Maybe Danielle, I want you to say more about this, because this was your answer to me of like, what are we even doing here with Dragon Slayers? Like, what are we doing? Because we're talking about, a lot of people can see what Alan's talking about. They want to affect society, or they're going, oh my gosh, the nation, or oh my gosh, the world seems crazy. I don't know what to do. And then I was talking with you about this, and you said the root, here's the root cause, the solution is brotherhood. Can you maybe take a moment to walk us through how brotherhood is the answer to societal change in a more hopeful future?
Yeah, I think, without a doubt, we see the breakdown of society primarily through undermining marriage, children born within the context of a loving husband and wife. A man and a woman raising children has been the cellular component of society since the beginning of time. And various people have tried to mess with it, and everybody messed it up. Every single person that tried to mess with that every society has messed it up. So the model that, God creates a man and a woman to produce children. That's from the very beginning. And we see, okay, well, that is a building block for us. Well, when you attack it, and you split that up, you've now created a confusion that just resonates throughout society. And so fatherlessness is a huge issue, because when you strip away the image of God, the model of God, the design of God, when you strip that away from a child's upbringing and then a child's education, and you successfully remove the protector, the provider, the connector from a child's life, you now have a wobble that is just not going to go away. But our premise really is that the way that is long-term sustainable, you keep justifying the removal of men and fathers, is because the koinonia amongst men, the covenant love and protection of brotherhood, has been disassembled with isolation, disassembled with busyness, disassembled with distraction, and eventually it's disassembled by competition and the fear of laying my life down for my brother. So I think that, as we go after these dragons, really what we're doing is we're reconstructing this covenant and this brotherhood so that there is a whole community of men that would never let their brother be an idiot husband or a lousy father. I just wouldn't let you do it. I'd chide you so bad. I'd ride you so bad. I'd healthy shame you right into surrender and submission, right back into your rightful role. And that model really is, the return of a healthy society is the health and nourishment of man to man, and then boys being welcomed into manhood by a healthy community of men.
Yeah, I love that, because we see that happening right now with Alan.
Yeah,
Alan's being that guy in his community.
Totally.
And it starts with his family, and it radiates. And how many times he's thanked us on the podcast, since he's been on, going like, it's because of you guys. It's like, I'm not the one running around with convicts in Hawaii,
and governors.
It's you, man. Like, this is, but it really is amazing. And Alan, what you're doing over there it's so inspiring, brother. And we need lots more men like Alan.
We do.
What would the world look like?
And that's the goal, man. That is the goal, is gather men who love their state, love their people, love well.
Famous for love.
And Alan, thank you so much, buddy. I really, really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. This is awesome. This is so valuable to us. You're just pouring gas on our fire every time we talk to you, man. You are just, and we got to get a Dragon Slayer adventure in Hawaii as soon as we possibly can, man. I don't know if we're chasing pigs with knives or what we're doing, but I so want to do it, man.
I'm in.
Amen. We can make that happen.
Chilling.
All right.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Aloha.
All right. Aloha, you guys.